We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
This is Peter.
And this is Tom.
And you're listening to History Teachers Talking Podcast.
Now part of the Evergreen Podcast Network.
All right, this is Peter Zablocki and Thomas Reska, and welcome back to our podcast. Tommy, today we're doing a special one in lieu of Black History Month.
Yeah, for African American History Month, this is someone that, again, we've talked about doing a number of times. All right, I think we probably mentioned him probably in some other podcasts here or there. But if you're looking for American sport figures or American icons, he's definitely got to be in the top of those lists, right? All of them. So we're looking at the former heavyweight champion of the world, the greatest. We're looking at the one, the only Muhammad Ali, the first man to win the heavyweight title 3 times. Transcended sports, right? For his outspokenness on like race issues, religion, politics. He was a controversial figure, I would say, for a while in his career, and then he kind of became almost like this civil rights icon, humanitarian icon later on in his career. But he was also known for his quips and his taunts, fast fists, basically. So he was just an American icon.
He was larger than life.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, an American legend in a sense, whether you like him or not. And some things we are going to talk about today, and specifically pertaining to the Vietnam War, and maybe a little bit about his just outgoing and brash attitude. I mean, he really kind of turned some people off. So again, there's no way of going around the fact that he was a controversial figure. However, he still goes down as you mentioned, one of the most. I'm almost positive, actually, he was named the athlete of the century.
Athlete of the century or he was named, greatest sportsman several times, one of the best boxer of all time, or one of the best boxers of all time, and depending on the magazine you're looking for. And just when you were saying that, I was thinking, Pete, I wonder if he was alive today, say, in his prime today, would he be considered as controversial?
Right. I mean, God knows. I mean, look at Kanye West. I mean, with stuff he says, and he's still got followers. I don't know.
But just like what he says now is kind of like people are like, well, yeah, something
that is true.
Equality. I don't know if it would be as controversial. It was definitely in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
but
when we get into it, I mean, the stuff he was saying,
a lot of stuff he said,
sense. It made a lot of sense, though. Quite frankly, I mean, even we'll get into this. I didn't really know about it until I started researching this. He's considered as a great inspiration for many rappers.
Because he did a lot of spoken word and stuff like that.
Yeah. So a lot of things I was not aware of when I started doing this research. So let's get into Muhammad Ali. We'll kind of run through really quickly his upbringing and how he got into the sport, and then kind of how he became popular within the sport. Then we'll get into some of the major battles and that he fought some of the major fights that are kind of entrenched in American sports, but also cultural history. And then we'll talk about some of the controversies that surrounded Muhammad Ali and some of the legacy that has remained since his death. All right, so he was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky.
1942.
1942. Started training as an amateur boxer at the age of 12.
But did you see why? Did you see that story?
Yeah, that was the police officer. I thought that was pretty cool.
Go ahead. So the police, basically, someone stole his bike, and he went to report it. Remember, this is at the time he was born in Cassius Clay. We have to make sure we touch on that. And significance of that name is he was actually named in honor of a politician, an abolitionist, Cassius Marcellus Clay. So that's actually his father's paternal grandparents were John Clay, so that's how he got that name. But anyway,
they were white though. They're abolitionists, and they were white.
They're white. Yes, he was named after that. Yeah, and he getting back to that, his bike was stolen, so he went to the police station and he said, he was crying and upset that his bike got stolen. He says he wants to find the person and pummel him, beat him up. The police officer, a man by the name of Joey Martin, he said, well, how are you going to do that? Do you know how to fight? And he's like, I know, I'm just going to beat him up. And he's like, no, you have to learn how to fight. So he actually took him under his wing. He was a boxing trainer and started training Ali at 12 years old. And that's basically how it started. And he just started, he was good at it, right? He was teaching him how to move around, his stamina and stuff like that. And for the last 4 years of his career, he was trained by there. And that's what he did. He just was an amateur boxer. He didn't say he had over 100 victories.
Yep.
At that point. And he goes on to actually fights in the wins light heavyweight gold in the Olympics in 1960.
That one's
I,
important too because in Olympics you couldn't be pro, so
yeah, he
that's
couldn't be
the
pro
key
yet.
here.
Yeah,
That he is basically an amateur fighter. Whoever, I mean, again, it wasn't an easy way for him to get to that point because he did lose some fights, but he learned a lot. And by the time 1960 comes around, here's a young Cassius Clay going for an American boxing team, and he wins the light heavyweight gold medal. Which event did you hear that he apparently at one point there's rumors that he threw it in a river. When he got upset later on when he came back because he went to like a bar or something, a restaurant, and they refused to serve him because he was black. So he
yeah.
got
They
upset
said
and threw it out.
They said yeah. So he threw it in there. There was other claims that said that never happened, and
Yep,
apparently one of his biographies, Ali just says he lost the medal a few days later.
yep.
He
They
just
did
also,
give
but
him right.
he did get one, yeah, because he was the torchbearer in the '96 Olympics. I remember
Yep.
that. I remember
I
actually
do.
watching it
I
on
remember
TV.
that too. Actually,
I
watching
said
that.
that was
Yeah.
a huge thing because I was like, who's going to be the torch? It was like Muhammad Ali. It was like this big moment because he was such like a statesman and human. At that point in his
And he
life,
was already sick by then too. So people are
oh, he was.
like, can
Oh,
he
he
do it?
was. Well, we'll get to it. He was sick when
Yeah.
he was still boxing. Like, we'll get to
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so he lit, and they gave him a medal there. He placed a medal at a basketball intermission during the '96 Olympics.
I watched a documentary about that when he was actually lighting the torch. There was they created a special torch that would not go out because they knew that with his Parkinson's,
Parkinson's,
he
yeah, the
was
shaking.
like he
Yeah.
was shaky, and they're like, he might not be able to do this. Even the night before, when they were doing like a dry run of it, like he kept on like dropping it, and they were like, oh man, like is this is going to work out? But he did it at the actual ceremony. But there was a lot of people behind the scenes were like, oh
Well,
man,
that just shows. I mean, as we'll talk about, I think that just shows like his career. Like whenever there was like the biggest moments when he needed to shine, he usually did.
yep.
So you can look at it that way. He came through in that moment, and that's what he needed to do. That moment was carry that torch.
All right, so shortly after the Summer Olympics of 1960, Cassius Clay becomes a professional and makes his professional debut. October 29th, 1960, he winds up winning a 6-round decision. After that, going forward, this is kind of also, he's winning, but he's not like knocking people out. He's
No,
just
no.
he's just
He
kind of
never.
winning.
He was. I mean, I guess he was a knockout guy, but like when we think knockouts, we think like Mike Tyson, right? Like
Yeah.
he was. But Clay had what 50 some odd wins. He had 61 total fights, 56 wins, and 37 of them came by KO. By knockout, and a lot of those were technical knockouts. So his main skill was that he had power. I'm not trying to diminish
Yeah.
that, and neither one of us are like big boxing historians.
Yeah.
I've probably
That would be cool, though. What do you
I'm
do?
not a,
Oh, I'm a boxing historian.
yeah, like I remember watching boxing. My father was definitely into boxing. I remember watching it a lot with him. I've seen all the Rocky movies, which we'll talk about because it was actually
Oh,
inspired.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
I
I
saw
got
that.
a connection with Ali. That most people know that, and
Yeah.
I know about some other things that Ali did. But I remember, being growing up watching wrestling. He was a lot of times involved in wrestling because he loved wrestling, which we'll talk about. I'm
Well,
sure,
actually, we should talk
here
about
and now.
wrestling now because this is the time in
Yes,
early 1960s where he gets
Gorgeous
his
George.
swagger.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You want to get into that because wrestling's your thing.
Well, yeah, I'm like sure.
Well, it is.
So
No, I had to look up Gorgeous George. I literally had to look this guy up. And I was,
you never heard of Gorgeous George?
no, I didn't even know wrestling was a thing in 1940s. They're like in 1940s, he was really big in a W. I'm like, what?
We talked
Wrestling?
about that. All right,
1940s?
well, Gorgeous George was a wrestler. He came out, in like that. I guess they call it like the golden age of wrestling, whatever, in the 40s and 50s. And he was one of the biggest stars, mostly because he had like the blonde hair, but he would wear these robes and he would taunt his opponents. And that's really where Cassius Clay started learning about the trash talk. Right.
Yep.
He learned it. He would go and see George's ability to talk at these crowds and just like get these people just eating out of the palm of his hand by saying these things. Like nowadays, what you would see if you watch promos from like Steve Austin or the 80s Hulk Hogan, The Rock, things like that, like those catchphrases, and things like that. That's where Ali really gets a lot of these. And
They meet in 1961.
Yeah, they meet.
In
Yeah,
Vegas.
he loves it. Yeah, they become friends. And Ali actually has a couple wrestling matches I guess we can talk about later on. But he meets them, they become friends, and he's really learns how to do this from Gorgeous George. Just like trash talking, but also becoming a big bragger because he knows people then will come out and he's showing personality, so people will pay more money.
Yep.
He really sees boxing as, although he loves boxing, the sweet science, whatever you want to call boxing, but also the promotion of it. This is a way that I can make a lot of money doing this, right? He realized, I'm getting punched for a living. There's only so many years you can do this. So I gotta try to make as much money as I possibly can during this window. And one way to do this is if you can get these huge crowds. You can get these huge crowds by this trash talking of opponents and stuff like that. People like it.
Yeah. And I mean, literally, this was just a means to get people's butts into the seats.
Attention. They get
Yep.
they get the press talking about them. People are going to read it. They're going to hear it on the radio and maybe see it on TV later on, and then they're going to come and see the fight. They're just interested. They're interested.
Yep, and they've said it, even if he pissed people off, he also said that in a later interview. Like
Yeah.
even if he pissed people off,
Who
people would
cares?
still come and see him
That's
just to
it.
see him lose
Yeah,
because
they
they
want to
were
see him lose,
angry.
or they want
Yeah,
to see him win. Like
yep.
it's the same thing. I don't want to get this isn't like a wrestling podcast. There's so many of
Uh-huh.
those out there. But like, yeah, even like today, like the wrestlers, like you pay to see the ones that you want win, but you also pay to see the ones you want to lose. Like that's
Yep.
what it is. It's drama, and that's what Ali recognized, and that's what he's doing from this point really on. He does it when he starts fighting. Well, he beats Sonny Liston, right?
Well, let's get
He
to
become
Liston because he's
yeah,
21 years old.
yeah,
This is his
21.
first big fight. It's 1963. Cassius Clay is the top contender for Sonny Liston's title. So Sonny Liston is the champ. The fight is set for February 25th, 1964.
1964.
So he's about 21, 22 years old. And Liston was a very dominating fighter. I mean, criminal
Yeah.
past, right? He had ties to the mob. Like this guy was the real deal. He was a champ, and people were generally kind of afraid of him. Obviously, this is where the whole Clay show starts. The Ali. Now
Yeah.
he's still Cassius Clay.
Yeah, so he's calling him names, right? He's calling
Yeah, a big ugly bear. You
big
smell
ugly
like
bear.
a bear.
You smell like a bear. So he's doing all this. He's like, something sounds right out of wrestling, right? After I beat him, I'm going to donate him to the zoo. Like these
Yep.
are things that, again, people in the '60s, you didn't hear this stuff.
Yep.
You didn't hear these sorts of things from like professional boxers and stuff like that. And even Sonny Liston was like, this was getting him angry. Like,
Yep.
and this is one other thing that they said Clay would do at the time. Is just it would get their opponents off their game. They're not going to stick to their game plan necessarily. They just want to knock them out. And he was fast and he was agile, so he knew he could dodge a lot. He could take a lot of punishment too. Let him tire out, and that's when he would start his style. But it was all really part of. Yes, it was to get people into the game, into the match, but it was also to get people to just like get into his opponent's head and help him win the boxing fight.
And he almost didn't win this one because of a trick actually that was never really proven, but suggested.
Yeah, but I saw this. Yeah.
Basically, halfway through the
Talked about
fight,
this.
like Cassius Clay is
Fourth
winning.
round.
Things are happening, halfway through, and all of a sudden,
Cut Liston, right? Like he punched Liston in the eye and he cut him. It's the first time Liston gets cut, and that's what leads to this. So yeah, go ahead. Just to give a little backdrop.
Yeah. There. So at that point, at one point, Ali or Cassius Clay rather walks up to his corner and basically asks his trainer, like, "Stop the fight! Like I can't see. Stop the fight!" And the
My
trainer's
eyes are
like,
burning,
like my eyes are burning. Like I can't see. And the guy's like, "We're not stopping this fight." Essentially, what supposedly happened is Liston put some special ointment, right?
Well, yeah,
Usually
usually they put it on the eye to stop the bleeding, but they also supposedly rubbed it on his gloves. So when he punched, it would get in the person's eyes and it would burn. And that's what they were saying. And then apparently there was a lot of other
boxers
opponents who complained about the same thing about fighting against Linson, that their eyes were burning. Now this is in the '60s in boxing. It was still it was a free for all. It was a free for all. Yeah, a lot of this stuff was crazy. But whether or not that happened, who knows? But eventually, he survived the 5th round, and then after that, his sweat and stuff basically rinsed the irritation from his eyes.
And then he went crazy.
6th round, he just started hitting Liston repeatedly, and then Liston didn't answer the bell for the 7th round. He was declared winner by TKO because he couldn't answer the bell. And then later, Liston says that he injured his shoulder, and that's actually why he stopped.
Yeah, did you see the answer? Did you see the answer to that?
Yeah, well, go ahead. Again, this is like one of those like wrestling like quips,
Yeah, they said he didn't come out because, like I said, he injured his shoulder. And then Ali said, "Yeah, swinging at nothing. Who wouldn't?"
Listen, yeah, who wouldn't? Yeah, and this is when he's screaming like, "Eat your words." He said, "I'm the
he
greatest."
starts screaming at the actual. He runs up to the edge of the ring and to the reporters, and he's like, "Eat your words. I'm the greatest. I shook the world. I'm the prettiest thing that ever lived." Like he's a showman. But he also just won
heavyweight
championship
championship
22 years old.
At 22 years old, yeah.
Who eventually becomes the boss of this, though?
Oh, the youngest champion ever. That's Mike Tyson. Right?
Yeah,
he becomes at 20. I guess we could do one on Tyson, his cultural impact. At some point.
Maybe we could get him on a podcast.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Why not?
Give it a shot.
We'll have our people call his people. And
That's
who's
right.
Our people?
That's right. Our people. Let's talk to our people.
I'll see. I'll have my wife do it. We'll see what happens.
I was gonna say she might. She always gets things done.
Yes, that's true.
So but anyway, he's 22 years old. Prior to that, the youngest one person to ever win it was at 21. But still, I mean, he's super young. He's the champion of the world at 22 years old,
which is super young. Super young.
And it's also shortly, you're right. And shortly thereafter, he starts to really question his name. And he initially starts calling himself Cassius X because he doesn't want to be associated with the Clay name. claiming that this guy was an abolitionist, but at the same time, he still owned slaves at some point. And why would he be associated with the name of a white slave owner at any point in that life? So he starts calling himself Cassius X, right? Right before he converts to Islam, which is very known, and he takes a new name of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, this
Right?
is what he goes through. So this is his new name. This is Muhammad Ali. But what's really interesting is that very few people were calling him Muhammad Ali when
Well,
he
to piss
changed his
him
name to
off.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Well, other boxers pissed him off, also like journalists and stuff like that. Like Howard Cosell was one of the first ones to be like, "You want to be called Muhammad Ali? I'll call you Muhammad Ali." Like, I don't,
Yeah.
that's what, like, that's your name you want to be called? Okay, right? But a lot of people were still calling him Cassius Clay. Like a lot of like news reporters were calling him Cassius Clay. The boxers did it just to get into his head, just to like piss him off, which
Yeah.
obviously
And
we'll
he
talk
did. He
about.
he kept on getting angry every time there was a press thing where
Yeah,
they would meet beforehand. They would be
yeah.
like, "How you doing, Cassius?" And he'd be like, "That's not my name. That's not my name." Like he initially he officially rather does change his name once he converts to Islam, and that becomes
Yes.
his religion and very much like his new identity. And
Oh yeah,
also
without a
leads
doubt.
to like his draft refusal later on, and so on and so forth. And I think
Well, it
we'll
shapes
get
his
into.
life. It shapes his. It's his religion, so it's going to have a major impact on his life. Like that's just
Yep.
how it's going to be. Even though he shifts
Um.
eventually away from the Nation of Islam, he becomes a Sunni Muslim
Yep. Yep.
later on. But yeah, so he's fighting. It's during this time that too he's eventually going to have
Well, he has
a
a rematch first. That one's
rematch. He
important.
has to have a rematch. Yeah, because it has the rematch with
The
Linston.
fake,
With a
whatever it is.
phantom punch, yeah. But which, if
Yes.
you really watch, I was watching the video right before this actually, just to like see it again. He does connect with a punch. The phantom punch is like he. What happens is
Oh,
Liston
yeah,
comes
explain
in.
that because this is interesting.
Sonny Liston comes charging at Ali, and Ali kind of sidesteps and does this like lower jab punch. It connects very cleanly right to the side of his head, and he does throw another like looping punch over that does miss. So I think a lot of times when people they thought like the looping punch
Yeah, was the
was one
one
that
that missed supposedly the
yeah,
phantom one?
because
Yeah.
Livingston does fall down. He's falling down as Ali's throwing. He's falling down, so it does look like he swings and the guy goes down, but he was still feeling the effects from that first punch. A lot of boxing historians, from what I was able to read and come up with, is that they said, listen, like the first punch definitely knocked him down. They're just not sure if Liston decided, hey, you know what, I'm just
I'm
not going to
out.
get up now,
This
because
was a minute into the match.
it was
Like,
really controversial because yeah, it was a difficult to see, right? And he got knocked out, but the referee didn't begin the count immediately because Ali refused to retreat to the neutral corner. So Liston eventually rose up after getting about 20,
20
30
seconds.
seconds,
Yeah,
and the fight continued for a little
for
bit,
like 30
and
seconds.
yeah, and then like the referees on the side came in and stopped the match and
They're like,
declared
yeah, he
Ali
was
the
down
winner
for
by
more than 10
knockout.
seconds. Yeah,
Yeah, so the entire fight lasted about 2 minutes.
yeah,
And then there's a lot of speculation what was going on. They knew Sonny Liston did have some connections to the mob, so they're thinking that maybe he did that to pay off debt to the mob. Others say that it was threats from the Nation of Islam itself. The others say that he took a bet against himself and took a dive. But if you actually look at the slow motion replay, it's a great video out of on YouTube. Obviously, he got hit with a really really hard shot right to the jaw that would have
yeah.
definitely knocked him down. It was just whether it was a knockout punch that some people to this day are still going to like debate, but that's just always going to be debated.
Yep. And I think the next fight, because we're not going to get into all his fights, but the next fight that
No,
we kind of should mention before we talk about the fact that he's kind of suspended, more or less, for 4 years. He does fight Floyd Patterson,
who
whom
is a
whom he calls all kinds of like Uncle Tom. You're like,
yeah.
like again, getting into the whole race thing. This is, after all, civil rights movement times, and he's saying like you fight for the white man, and it just completely offending this guy. There's an interesting story here because critics said that he basically was toying with Patterson.
Yeah,
In a,
that it was just brutal, hard to watch.
hard to watch because Patterson had no shot and he was just talking about. But what's interesting, in '72, when Patterson was struggling financially, Ali actually arranged a second fight just so that way the former champ could have enough money to pay off his debt, which I think was kind of cool. And
Yeah, a
that,
lot of them do this for the money because they make a lot of money, but they also spending so much with like so many people get it too. You know what I mean? Like the promoters get a piece of the money, all the handlers and stuff like that. So you need money for training. So yeah, a lot of these boxers wind up going broke, and that's what happened with Patterson at that point.
All right, so let's get into the suspension because I think that this is important, and everyone that
Yeah,
studies boxing and just history of the sport will tell you that we never got to see Ali in his prime.
in his prime, because he missed 3 years, but he would have been in his prime. He was
Yep.
undefeated heavyweight champion of the world at this point, and he gets drafted into the army because the army did lower the
Yep.
standards in '66 to permit soldiers above. Because he was, he was too tall, whatever that. But he was not eligible for the 1A draft,
Yep.
and obviously he was never going to see combat as being what he was. But the what athletes usually do when they get put in, and stuff like that. And but he said, no, I'm not doing. He says they're not my enemy. The Viet Cong's my enemy. They never did anything to me. I'm not going over there. He's like, there's injustice here. You want me to go shoot brown people in Vietnam when the people in
Yeah,
Louisville are
you
treated
said
like
like black
dogs
people
and stuff.
can't get a
Yeah,
hamburger. You know,
they don't get simple human rights, and you want me to go
yep.
fight in the jungle. So among other colorful words and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
he just said, I'm not going to do it. Then he could have faced 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine, but he just said, well, I'm not going. And then because of that, then he gets stripped of his title and his boxing license. And that's really the big thing, is he gets stripped of his boxing license. So nowhere in the United States they won't sanction his fights. So because he can't fight, that's why he gets the title stripped from him.
He does, though, claim or cites his religious beliefs as an
Yeah,
opposition to American,
and that's a bit, yeah, and he as a
because
conscientious
that's what it
objector.
gets. That's how it goes into court.
Yeah,
It's the idea he's saying because of my religious beliefs, I am a conscientious objector, and that's kind of how the lingo goes in court. Where eventually this case is dismissed, but by then it's 3-4 years later. By the time this case is dismissed, but he doesn't go to jail because that's how long it takes for the case to
for
really go to the Supreme
all
Court.
these liberations. Yeah, and they actually had a lot of professional athletes came out and supported him. They
Yep.
had something known as the Cleveland Summit. I'm sure you saw
I
this.
saw that at Kareem
It's
Abdul-Jabbar.
often called the Muhammad Ali Summit, where you had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like Jim Brown, Bill Russell, a lot of and political leaders all come together, and they say, they just met with him to see like how serious are you about this, and whether or not they're going to support him. And when they did, that kind of started to shift a lot of public support also to Ali's favor. Plus, as the time went on, the war during those 3 years, the war was also becoming more and more unpopular. Right?
Yeah.
Just listen to our 1968 podcast, right? Where they, talking about the Tet Offensive, stuff like that. So the war started to become more and more unpopular at that point, and Ali was just seen in public light a little better, by a lot of people who didn't like him because he was calling him a draft dodger. That wasn't really the case anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you kind of got from it too?
That's kind of what I got out of it. Yeah, same thing.
Like there were still a lot of people that hated him, but not as
Yeah,
it
super
wasn't like
controversial.
it wasn't the public's. It wasn't everybody against him like it was before. A lot of people could understand what he was saying more or
Yeah.
less.
No, I mean, he definitely brought a lot of attention because there is an impact of his draft refusal, right? He brought a lot of attention to the civil rights issues
Yes,
at the
absolutely.
time, because he was going saying, okay, I'm not doing this because obviously of my convictions and my religion, but also I'm not doing this because I'm not going to go and fight for freedom somewhere else when my people don't have freedom in this country. And that's kind of what brings
Exactly.
attention to the African American struggle. Although, so many people were drafted and didn't have the liberty to say like, well, I'm not doing it. That there was a lot of
Yeah.
resentment, from blacks and whites, like, dude,
Yeah.
like
So
you're a draft dodger. Like you're not going to fight.
yeah, a lot of people got drafted, and they, especially because he would, again, like I said before, he not that it was anything. I'm not trying to diminish it, but he wasn't going to see combat. You know what I mean? You weren't going to see Muhammad Ali with a rifle in the jungles of Vietnam. That
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
going to
that's look
happen.
what happened
You know
to
what I mean?
Elvis. Like Elvis
But
didn't same thing,
yeah,
like
but I look at but then
pre-Vietnam, but
the average Joe from somewhere, from Tennessee, who doesn't have the connections, doesn't have the money, he gets drafted, he's going, and he is going to be given a rifle and go and fight Viet Cong.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why you're saying all that resentment was coming from people going there, the families of people still here, veterans coming back, but he's still protesting during this time. And I thought one of the most interesting something he did was the super fight. Did you see this?
I did. That was like ahead of its time.
That was ahead of its time, especially from the 60s. Basically, they were, who would win? Rocky Marciano, who was considered a great boxing
Legend.
champion, right? Undefeated. He was undefeated. Retired champion Rocky Marciano or Muhammad Ali. So originally, Ali actually sued them because I guess they did like
They made a claim that
they
that
made a
what's his
claim
name would
about it,
win.
yeah.
That Rocky Marciano would win.
Marciano would win. So they sued him. So he sued, citing like slander and stuff. So they eventually agreed to appear in the stage fight where you had both of them because Rocky Marciano was still alive at this time too. They kind of like filmed like sparring,
1 minute rounds.
Like 75 1-minute rounds, and they produce all these like different outcomes, right?
The
Doing
computer,
that,
they put it through a computer
yeah, the
algorithm.
computer determined the winner based on the data of the fights, along
Yeah.
with all these like boxing experts. And then they edited them all together. They actually showed them in movie theaters, and it made a lot of money in 1970. It made a lot of money. And Ali lost the simulated in 13-round knockout. He lost. However, if you go to Europe, the Europe cuts, he actually won due to a stoppage of the fight because Marciano had too many cuts.
Yep,
So
the joke.
yeah. So the computer was made in Alabama.
Yeah, he said
That's
it was
why
a
he lost.
racist. It was a racist computer.
Racist computer. So,
Yeah.
but it was one of those, simulations. And I think they do something with that too in the
Rocky
one of
movie,
the
right?
one of the Rocky movies. Yeah, the Rocky. I think Rocky Balboa when he fights Mason Dixon.
Yeah,
Because they did like
they do like a simulation at the beginning.
a computer simulation where Rocky would beat that guy, and then they want to fight in real life. Now, this fight wasn't going to happen, obviously, in real life, but again, it keeps his name out. His name is out there. People still want to see him box. Like, what could possibly happen? And then later on in 1970, like you said,
that's when he
gets
returns.
his appeal, and that's when he's going to come back. In his first match, he wins in 3 rounds. Against someone named Jerry Quarry, really, who I guess claimed the fame is that he was Muhammad Ali's comeback fight.
Need to mention the fact that like he doesn't get a shot right away at like the championship fight. Like he lost all his stuff, even though he was a champion and it was all taken away 3-4
Yeah,
years
he said,
before.
but a lot of people were still considering him the heavyweight champion. Like if he didn't lose a title, you're still the champion. That's what a lot of the boxing writers were saying. They're still considering him the champion. That's why the current champion, Joe Frazier, really wants to fight him. And then this is just like a massive
I've seen a documentary. There's a cool documentary
there's a bunch of documentaries on this one. Yeah. There are a whole bunch of documentaries, because they fight 3 times. This is the first one. The fight of the century is what it's called. And there's just like,
it's dirty because of
I remember talking about my dad about it because my dad was actually watching it and stuff like that. It became a spectacle. And it's really like a major thing in American sports, but also world, like just like what was going on, because it was kind of like the conservative versus the liberal almost in a way, right? Like this
smack
new
talk
generation,
was nuts.
Back and forth. Yeah, so I'm sure. I don't know what you want to say.
Well,
on it, but yeah,
Ali called him. That's another thing. So one thing, Frazier kept on belittling him and calling him, "Hey, Cassius Clay." Hey,
on purpose. On
TV, he refused to call him Muhammad Ali, and then he would call Frazier dumb, and he would be like, "You're like a tool of the white establishment that's like anti-black," and then he would say like, "Frazier, you're too dumb to be a champ." And then at one point he even said like Ali says, "I'm fighting this for the little man in the ghetto, the poor blacks." And Frazier's like, "What do you know about the poor blacks?" Like Joe's like, "I came from there. Like, how can you make me the enemy of the black people?"
He took it personally. Like apparently, if you research Joe Frazier and learn anything about Joe Frazier, what like those documentary stuff, he hated Ali for this.
Yeah.
To like the bitter end. Like I'm not even talking after the fights. Like they kind of still did some stuff together afterwards. But he would even say things like, look at it later on when Ali really has like the suffering from Parkinson's. He's like, look at us now. Who do you think won those fights and stuff like that? He still had bitter anger for Ali. I'm sure towards the end, I think it got a little bit better, but he was still just couldn't forgive him for all the things that he said during these fights and what he portrayed Frazier to be.
Well, so the first fight, obviously, if you guys watch these documentaries, Ali loses the first fight.
Yeah,
he doesn't get knocked out. Yeah. He gets knocked down once, but he gets up after like 3 seconds. But anonymous decision. He loses the first one, and then he winds up having a second Frazier fight because there's 3, as you mentioned. The second Frazier fight, but this one, judges award Ali with the anonymous decision, right? And they say he's kind of dancing a lot around Frazier, and he does his whole famous
rope-a-dope strategy and stuff like that. Yeah.
So he does wind up winning the next one, and this is when you have like, all right, so Ali's back. However, the biggest fight post forced retirement because of the draft dodging is against George
Foreman, who most people know today from the George Foreman lean mean cooking machine, right? The grill, right? And so George Foreman in his own right is a 2-time world champion heavyweight boxer, and they fight him in what becomes known as the Rumble in the Jungle, right? So you're seeing these, and George Foreman is one of, if they measure, they ever see Rocky IV, they're measuring Ivan Dragov's punch power, I guess whatever it is, right? George Foreman has one of the hardest recorded punches in history ever. Like this guy hits
hard,
like he hits you and I were dead.
Oh please!
What? And stuff like that. Like
you're trying to tickle me, I would die. What do you think?
That's what's going to happen.
There's a movie coming out about him, George Foreman. Now I just saw a preview for it. It looks really good.
I'm Yeah, I remember watching boxing. It was some I can't remember. It was some boxing match, right? And like it got like it was in Madison Square Garden. It was like a riot. I know someone in the comments can talk about it. I don't remember. It was one of those like and like because the guy kept on hitting him below the belt, so the referee stopped the fight, and it was like a riot. And I remember watching it, and then George Foreman was on commentary at this point, and these guys were like, I guess like coming over to like I don't know, like give George Foreman whoever they were a hard time. The riot was happening all over the place, and George Foreman, this guy's in the 60s, just kind of stands up and is like, "Don't be an idiot, don't be an idiot." It just starts like like acting
Yeah.
like squaring up, getting rid of the punch, and the guy just puts on a chair and walks off. Like you
Nuts.
can find it on YouTube. So it's like, yeah, I'm not going to mess with this. Never mind. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
anyway, so they fight,
Well,
and
we
it's
should
a
also mention though,
huge battle.
like it's a huge battle, but that's also because George Foreman had just won the title fight for heavyweight
Yes, yeah,
champion.
yeah. He's
So
he's
he
heavyweight
is the
champion.
current champion.
He beat Frazier.
Yep.
Yes, before they've yes, yeah. He's the one that knocked out Frazier before that second fight.
Before the second fight. Yep.
Yeah, no one gave Ali a chance. He was an
Yep.
underdog again.
Yep. So Rumble in the Jungle. It's happening in Zaire, televised. From what I remember reading about, this was like in the middle of the night because of the difference in time. But people still set up like they wanted to see this fight. And this is the crazy part. Like you said, no one gave him a shot, and he winds up winning.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he said if he had an interesting quote. Like he said, if you think the world was surprised when Nixon resigned, right? Wait till I whoop Foreman's behind. So he liked to do those like
Yeah.
rhyming things. He's saying how he like
Did you
wrestled
hear the quote
alligators
from?
and stuff like that.
Yeah, did you hear the quote? George Foreman later said that I thought Ali was just one more knockout victim, meaning like I just needed to punch him one time.
Yeah.
But by the seventh round, I hit him hard to the jaw, and he held me and whispered in my ear, "That's all you got, George." And that's when I realized that this ain't what I thought it was.
Yeah. So he thought he was in a battle. He was in like a war, and that's it too. He got in George Foreman's head after that. And
Yep.
that was basically it. And he wound up beating him. I think he didn't knock him out, right?
No,
I'm
it
trying
was
to
he didn't
remember.
knock him out. No, he wound
It
up
was it
winning
was
though.
by decision. Yeah.
Yeah, but so this is the crazy part. The fight was watched by a record estimated television audience of 1 billion viewers
Oh yeah, it was
worldwide.
huge. It was
This
huge.
was the event. Like in comparison, 113 million watched a
Yeah.
recent Super Bowl.
And this was his dwarf
And this
stat.
was
Yeah.
1 billion people watched this fight. Also, it was the world's most watched live television broadcast of all time up to that point. That's crazy.
Yeah. Huge. Huge.
And Ali wins. So boom, that propels him. I mean, like he
Well, now
is.
he's got his title back, right? He has
Yep.
title that was stripped of him, so now he has his title back. He's the world champion again,
Which
and
brings
now
us to
he's
third fight against Joe Frazier.
well. He does fight a couple other people in between this. All right, one of them.
Oh,
is
this is
Chuck,
a big story. Yeah.
yeah. One of them is Chuck Wepner, right?
Mhm.
Which is inspiration. He does knock Ali down. Ali later says he tripped over his Chuck's foot. That's what knocked him down. And he almost goes 15 rounds with him. He was like this journeyman boxer, and stuff like that, who, goes the distance almost with the champ. And that story is what inspires Sylvester Stallone to create Rocky. And if you watch the first Rocky, it's that fight. Like he even says, Apollo Creed is modeled after Muhammad Ali.
Yep.
Joe Frazier's in that movie. Yeah, Frazier's in the first Rocky movie.
Crazy.
Too.
Well, yeah, that's the whole idea. It's the fact that this Chuck wound up knocking Ali down at one point. And he lost the fight, but that was the premise. Like Rocky knocks down
Apollo Creed, and he goes a distance. That's even what he says, right? I'm not trying to win. I just want to go to distance. And then, of course, because the movie becomes so successful, they have Rocky
Oscars.
2, 3, 4, 5, everything else, and this continues on to this day with the stuff. But
well, you know what? Talking about that, I literally before I came up here to record this, I was watching Rambo 3 with my younger son. We are on the Rambo kick. So we watched 1, 2, and now we're watching 3. And I said he's not allowed to watch 4 and 5.
No, I thought they were okay. We saw the one in the movie theaters.
But my kid's 11. I should not let him watch the last
well,
one.
It's bloody. So my dad showed my 4-year-old Conan the Barbarian.
Great movie, by the way. Hey, you got to teach him, toughness.
Yeah, until my wife finds out about it, and we have issues. What? But anyway.
So the third fight.
Let's go back to this.
Yeah. So after that is the third fight against Joe Frazier, the Thrilla in Manila, 100-degree Fahrenheit.
This is a brutal fight. This is a brutal fight, like a back and forth. These both men just refused to lose. I guess that's what I say. There was such like a anger towards each other, right? And this was the one that settled it, right? This one
was so bad that ultimately Frazier's trainer stopped it.
Stopped the fight, yeah.
And Frazier was pissed. He's like, "No, I'm coming out," but he couldn't see.
He couldn't see. His eyes were swollen shut. Yeah, so he couldn't see. And apparently, when the match was over, Ali just like fell down, like he was done. he was done. And he said afterwards that like it was the closest thing to dying. People asked him, have you ever watched it again? He's like, why am I going to go back and watch Hell?
Hell, yeah, go back and see
He's like,
Hell.
I have no. He even considered retirement after this match. He's like, I'm done.
And this was the big turn of events. Afterwards, he said that he called Frazier the greatest fighter of all times next to me. Like he's like Frazier really like took him distance there.
Yeah, he had a lot of respect for Joe Frazier after that. And again, Joe Frazier still takes that as like kind of like a slight like I'm the greatest fighter next to you. There was still animosity and stuff there, but it definitely hurt him. He was never the same. They said after that fight.
And actually, we should talk about that because after this fight, it pretty much is even though he still fought, it was every time he fought, it was wow, Ali's not looking as good as he once was, and every time that
Yeah,
he fought after that, Ali would himself say, "I am definitely retiring. I am definitely retiring." It was almost like the man wanted to retire,
but he
except
just
I
couldn't.
feel like that he couldn't because one, the money aspect of it, and two, he was such a draw financial for so many people
People
dependent
wanted,
on
yeah,
him.
exactly. Yeah. Even his one doctor actually retired, quit because he was saying that his kidneys are falling apart.
Yep.
He can't box anymore. Do you remember you get punched constantly in like your kidneys? I mean, over years, that's gonna has effects on you. So he just quit because he's like, I don't know how he's still getting. The athletic commission keeps on approving him. Probably
See,
wouldn't have happened today. It probably
yeah, yeah.
I would think it wouldn't happen today, but who knows? I don't know much about athletic commissions, but just knowing how, like, in coaching, if someone gets hit in the head with a volleyball, they're out 6 weeks. These
Yeah.
got like percussion, rightfully. So I'm not saying, but with all the concussion protocols, if your kidneys are failing and you're passing,
And
like
the thing is that he would fail. Actually, he would fail the physicals,
he would go somewhere else. Yeah, he would go
he
to
would
Mayo
go
Clinic.
somewhere else. Exactly,
Yeah.
and then they would like, oh yeah, you're okay, and then he would get the boxing commission to say, yeah, he's ready to fight. But each time he looked worse and worse and worse. And even the thing that was interesting when I was reading about this is that he would still win fights, but some people like sort of booing him because like it wasn't like he wasn't fighting well. And it almost seemed like the judges were just giving him the win, even though when he didn't always deserve the win. And there was that again. It's a claim whether that was the actual reality or not. But there was some people making those claims, and that's when it kind of the pinnacle here. This is like the worst
Well,
of the worst.
well, the first one is he loses the title right to Leon Spinks
Yep.
in Las Vegas. And he didn't even take that fight. Apparently, he was out of shape. He didn't really spar at all.
Yep.
He lost by a split decision. But the bout paid $6 million for just admission, right? Well,
Yep.
then a rematch, I'm sorry, he made $6 million at the Superdome in New Orleans.
Yep.
People want to see it. And he wins that unanimous decision. So he becomes the first ever 3-time heavyweight champion of the world.
Yep.
And
To
he
win the belt
continued
3 times. Yep.
to win the belt 3 times. And he retired after that fight. But then he comes back
Larry
to
Holmes.
fight
This should have never
the fight
happened.
Larry Holmes. And so apparently Larry Holmes did not want to fight Muhammad Ali because he's like, this guy, this
He's
is
old.
1979.
Yeah.
Like, remember
No,
this guy?
this is October 1980. Muhammad Ali's up there. Like has
Yeah,
retired numerous times.
So he's old and he's getting a boxer and fighting guys half his age. And
Yeah.
Larry Holmes did not want to fight, had nothing left, and he knew it was going to be hard. And he goes and he beats him. Obviously
Yeah.
they ordered they ordered the fight to be stopped. And it's not like this isn't even his last match. Like Ali
No.
fights
Like
again.
he
He
had
fights
exhibition
again.
bouts. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to some of those, but he fights.
Trevor.
He said fights a
Trevor.
few.
Trevor. Yeah.
Trevor Barrick, and that was he lost in 10 rounds, and that
Yeah.
was in December of '81. So people kept on calling him to retire, and he said in the Holmes fight he actually started to show Parkinson's syndrome.
Yep.
Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, was actually
Just
on the side of that
quote.
fight. They said,
Yeah.
and he said it was like it was the worst sporting event he ever had to. Well, that was someone else.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah.
they said it was the worst sporting event to cover. And Stallone said it was like watching an autopsy on a man who's still alive, but he just
Yeah.
couldn't defend himself. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you do? What, like this is just sad. You're seeing this legend. He can't win his father's time. He's the onset of
It
Parkinson's
was about
syndrome.
money. It was about putting him up there to try to make money.
Trying to get one more fight just to make money. You see
Exploiting.
it happens a lot, I guess, with
Yeah. Just athletes, I guess. But
athletes. Yeah.
just exploiting him. There's no way he should have been in that fight. He was past his prime, and again, then they get him after this when it was again this was televised, Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas, and you could watch this fight. I actually went back and watched this fight, and it's pretty bad. And the fact that he fights afterwards in '81, I don't. He
That's
loses
what
that
people
one.
say.
He loses that
Yeah.
one too. Yeah.
That's why I remember seeing a lot of like documentaries on him. Like the Knives home fight was one thing, right? Like, he wants to like try to win it back to title, whatever. But then to fight one more time after that against Bear Brickers is kind of like, what do you do? Like, why are people forcing him in? They're saying that was more like his handlers and stuff like that. Like, come on, champ, you can still do it.
Nuts.
And it just wasn't there. And after that, like, no one obviously wanted to see him fight again. It was just too much.
So that's pretty much ends. I mean, that in 81, that ends his career as a professional.
As a professional boxer, yeah. So again, we're not really a boxing podcast, but some of the other things that he did, transcend that. Obviously, what he was doing.
Well, so let's
after
get into
that.
the thing that I kind of found really interesting. This idea of the spoken word poetry and rap music. Spoken word refers to like an oral poetic performance art that's kind of like poetry, that you're basically reading poetry, but you're reading it in like it's not a rap. It just kind of has a different flow to it.
It's like tones and stuff like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Ali released a spoken word music record on Columbia Records, I Am the Greatest, in 64. He wound up recording a cover version of Stand By Me. He is viewed as an influential figure for hip hop music and artists because of his rhymes and stuff that he said. They called it, he had like funky delivery and very comical trash talk. And they said he's endlessly quotable. So you're talking about just freestyle skills. He would literally like freestyle at
Yeah.
people while he was offending them. Run DMC, LL Cool J, Kanye West, Nas, Jay-Z. These are people that actually point to Muhammad Ali as an inspiration for them to write their music, which again, I was not really aware of that.
Also, when his health and everything that's going on, he starts to really advocate for Parkinson's disease. Right,
Yes.
He teams up with Michael J. Fox, another individual who was stricken with this disease. 2001, he has the Ali the biopic comes out. I didn't know that came out only 2001. I thought it came out way later than that. When Will Smith plays Ali,
Yep.
but that came out in 2001.
That's
Man,
nuts.
I thought that came out way before then. Doing that sort of thing, he does contribute to an on-camera segment after 9/11 attacks to raise money for the victims.
Yep.
Like we said, we talked about the 96 Olympics and stuff like that. But 2001, he's obviously getting a little bit worse. He has this interesting quote. He says, "I'm blessed and thankful to God that I understand he's trying me. This is a trial from God. He gave me this illness to remind me that I am not number one. He is." I just feel like that's a very like Muhammad Ali thing to say too in that moment. You'll see, I remember seeing him from time to time on TV.
He held the flag in the opening ceremonies for the U.S. In the
he was a
Olympics
flag bearer, yeah.
in 2012. Yeah, he actually not runs, but he helps supports Ronald Reagan in his re-election bid in the 80s.
He meets a lot of the presidents, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is...
George W. Bush gives him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, I think, in 2005.
Yep.
So he's on that. So, and then obviously unfortunately he passes away in
Scottsdale,
Arizona on June 2nd, 2016.
Yeah,
at the age of 74.
We should also mention that his daughter becomes a very famous boxer.
Yeah,
And
Layla Ali, yeah.
Yeah, and he initially is very much against female boxing until he sees his daughter box. And then he kind of is like, I'm sorry, I stand
she actually
corrected.
fights Joe Frazier's daughter while speaking of a boxer. And she fights her. I remember that. It was like a big thing.
Remember Muhammad Ali fought the wrester guy?
Well, that's what I was going to talk about. Inoki, yeah, in Japan. That's what I was going to talk about, I guess, when we get to the
fun facts.
Like the fun facts, because a lot of people, it was a horrible match. I remember, I didn't see it, obviously, when I was a kid. I remember my cousin telling me about it. This is the whole big, like, who would win a boxer versus a wrestler, right? And the whole idea was, the boxer will win if it's just, if they're standing up, but if a wrestler can take them down, the wrestler will win, right? And what they're saying is it kind of like was the precursor for MMA fights. A lot of MMA fighters say they saw this fight, although the fight itself wasn't great because of, some of these rules or controversies that happened with it, which I guess we can talk about in a second. It kind of inspired them to kind of wonder what would go on. It kind of led to eventually a lot of this mixed martial arts and like UFC and stuff like that today. But Ali got really messed up in this fight too.
Yeah, that's basically when I read it.
Because, they basically, right before the match, they decided that, there was no tackling or kicking and stuff like that. Or Inoki could only have, if you don't know who Antonio Inoki is, he's like for wrestling, like Hulk Hogan of Japan. Like he's huge in Japan. Hulk Hogan, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali of Japan. This guy is respected. He actually is so respected. He actually led a peace mission to North Korea during the 1980s.
Yeah,
right, which Ali goes with. They become great friends after this. In the 1980s, they both visit North Korea and trying to negotiate peace and just as a peaceful mission. But anyway, like Ali, Inoki he wasn't at the kick unless one foot was on the ground. So he kept on. That's what he did. In the whole match, he's basically just laying on his back, like kicking Ali in the shins and in the legs.
Yeah, you can see this on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, it's there. And people were booing. They were excited about it because they wanted to stay there. They were going to see who would actually win. But basically, it caused blood clots and an infection. And they said Ali's leg was almost amputated, which was like
this
crazy.
guy literally laid on the ground
It just
and
kicked him
just
for 15 rounds.
kicked him
Kicked him
from the ground.
yeah, like right in the same spot. These like calf kicks, boom, 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 to the point.
It
Yeah.
was a sad fight because like Ali couldn't even hit him. That guy was literally on the ground the whole time.
Well, because that was, and there's a lot of
Tragedy.
speculation on like what happened with that. Even though like they told him, I know he couldn't do things, or then because it was going to be like an exhibition. First, I guess it was supposed to be like more like a wrestling match, like someone was going to win, and
Yeah.
then like no, let's actually do it, like expedition fight. And then they were kind of like arguing on, the rules of it. Like, all right, we can't have him tackling Ali. This is not going to be fair. Because before this, if you saw, Ali almost had a boxing match with Wilt Chamberlain. But then
Yeah.
the Lakers owner offered Chamberlain a contract, said, you have to not box. I'm not paying you this contract if you box. But they were actually going to fight each other. And Ali was like taunting him to be like, oh, you're going to hear timber when I knock you down, big guy, and stuff like that. So again, building it up. But anyway, like it just was like one of those matches where people wanted to see, and it made a lot of money. But then actually seeing it, it was like horrible. But
Yeah.
it does give some a lot of mixed martial artists say this is one of the first mixed martial arts fights and stuff like that, or really like inspire them to see what would really happen if they actually did,
Yeah. So let's get into finish up with some fun facts and maybe some quotes because I did find a bunch of quotes. But some of the fun facts: Ali appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated on 38 different occasions.
Yes, only one person ahead of him.
Yep, and that is Michael Jordan, with 46 times. Also, he appeared on the cover of Time magazine 5 times. Muhammad Ali, most of any athlete, which is kind of crazy. On top of that, Bruce Lee actually wrote in Ali's footwork. He was influenced by Ali's footwork, and he studied it through various different like movies and clips of fighting, and he developed Jeet Kune Do, which was like his start of fighting rather, and he incorporated Ali's foot movement into Jeet Kune Do. What else do we have? Ali was actually in a DC comic book. I'm surprised you didn't say this, Tom.
Oh yeah, he fought Superman.
Yeah,
I think I have it somewhere.
Are you serious? Oh, that's cool.
It's just basically Superman loses his power, so he's boxing with Muhammad Ali while like these aliens made it happen. While he's like they're using it to like distract why like I think like someone else, Jimmy Olsen or something, like finds a way back to Earth. Like it was one of those. It was not one of the better stories, obviously, but it was more just like a promotional thing. You seeing Ali fight Superman, and Superman's like, "Oh, if I didn't have my powers, you would definitely beat me," and stuff like that.
That's kind of cool, I guess, right? Also, When We Were Kings, which was a 1996 documentary that we referenced before about the Rumble in the Jungle between him and Frazier, it won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature, which is kind of cool. And he wound up getting a Hollywood Walk of Fame star for his contribution to the entertainment industry. What other fun facts do you have about this guy?
Well, just one interesting one is that his boxing gloves from his first world title win actually sold for more money. They sold for over $800,000, and he only earned $600,000 for the fight itself.
Oh wow!
So that just shows the sports memorabilia, I guess, market. But yeah, the gloves from that fight, from beating Sonny Liston, actually
worth more
sold for more money.
Fight.
Yeah,
nuts. ESPN has a list of top 10 quotes.
Yeah, I saw one that I really like.
Pops up. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I remember like telling some of my players too from when I coach, just be like when I talk about like what makes champions, or how do you like be successful. It's like I like the one I saw it on this one. Like I don't count the sit-ups. I only start counting when it starts hurting, because that's the only ones that count. That's what makes you a champion. So they talk about the numbers aren't absolute and stuff like that. You just have to everyone's different. So if I say you do 100 pull-ups, that's different from someone else doing 100 push-ups or pull-ups, whatever. It's just for you like what needs to be done. You know?
Another one I really liked is it isn't the mountains ahead that wear you down. It's the pebble in your shoe.
There was one the last one I would say, I guess it was one was said later on in life. He said, I wish people would love everyone else the way they love me. It would be a better world. That's just like kind of like looking at the global perspective, because he was just because he actually one thing I forgot to mention was he actually in 1990 he went to Iraq and met Saddam Hussein and negotiated a release of American hostages.
Nuts.
Because he was just Muhammad Ali, right? So this is Saddam Hussein. Like think about in the 90s, Muhammad Ali goes and meet with him.
That is nuts.
Like we never did one on Hussein, like the Persian Gulf War or something.
Yeah, I don't think we ever did the Persian Gulf. We should
talk about it.
And this one, this quote is I want to just 2 more I want to mention, and the one everyone knows: float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. You can't hit what your eyes don't see. I mean, that's
such like a smack talk quote.
Yeah, but I feel like that's also like the subtitle to his life, like that to his career rather. Like that's what he knew it was known for, right? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. This other quote I really like. It's I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. I figured that if I said it enough, I would convince the world that I was really the greatest. And that kind of really, I think, sums up his motif, his personality
Yeah,
of like, like just he was the greatest. He believed in it, and maybe the people would as well. And we're talking about him now, Muhammad Ali. I think he is going to be
absolutely.
known like just
Oh
like
yeah,
Michael Jordan is for
everybody knows
yeah,
him. They know the silhouette. If you see it, you see a picture, you know who it is. You hear the name, you know what it is. It goes back to one more quote that I really like from him that kind of sums up his life. Like, don't count the days, make the days count.
yeah,
You know, and you could say he definitely did that with his time on Earth. Whether it was just boxing, like he would be remembered just for sports, right, from what he did. But with his activism, his humanitarianism, everything else that he did, it just adds to that legacy, that larger than life figure, and how he inspired so many other people too. Like, let's
yeah,
not forget that. Forget about just boxers, but just people that he inspires later on in life with battling Parkinson's or just with everything else that he does. Like, he changed lives,
yeah.
without a doubt, without a doubt.
So I think that pretty much sums up, our
A
conversation,
brief look, yeah,
brief
like I said.
look, and our conversation on Muhammad Ali. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, if you didn't, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. No, but either way, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next week. If you need to contact us, meanwhile, you can find us at www.historyteacherstalkingpodcast.com. We are there if you guys have any questions, comments. We do get a lot of different suggestions. We do write them down. We do put them on our calendar. We want you guys to know that. And
Yeah.
hopefully,
We're not ignoring them. We, some we can do, some we can't do.
yeah,
But yeah, we definitely appreciate it.
yeah, we do get some colorful ones where we're like, yeah, we're probably not going to do that one.
Yes. We
um,
can't do the history of whipped cream. We're sorry. Just
yeah,
it's
no,
not that
no,
much
yeah,
there
yeah,
yet.
yeah, not much there, not much there. But nonetheless, we do try our best. So thank you so much, guys, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Enjoy.
Stay safe, everybody.
I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast, and if you would like to email us, you can do so at historyteacherspodcast@gmail.com.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.